What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, your friendly neighborhood bear, Sir Velvet the Bear, and I'm here with the one, the only Drekkia Writes. What's going on, girl? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right, but what's up, everybody? It's the poet, the artist, the creator, and energy curator, Drekkia Writes, and we're live in 501, and you know what's up.
You so smooth with it. Y'all got 501.
Hey, I try to be.
So look, I mean, I look up one day and you just on the scene. Like, you almost came out of nowhere. Like, tell us about yourself and tell us like really all of what you do.
Okay, so first off, I did magically appear from my mama's womb. I like to start there. So shout out to her for having me, because without her, none of this would be possible. But basically, I'm an artist. I've been an artist all my life. I started writing poetry when I was in 6th grade. My 6th grade teacher, her name was Miss Braswell. She introduced me to poetry, and I used to literally decorate like construction paper with my poems on it and post them on my walls. And then in 9th grade, I got introduced to actually performing. So I wrote this one poem, like it literally came to me when I was asleep. That's how I know I was just meant to use my voice. It was real mystical. So I had to wake up and write this poem. And I read it to my mama. She made me read it at church. And I did so bad. But you know, the church folks, they really make you feel good about anything you do. Right? So they made me feel so good. I'm like, okay, I need to work on this. So I started doing public speaking on Main Street, matter of fact, in Little Rock. And I was just working on my craft, and that's how I grew a love for actually performing poetry. And over time, I've learned that poetry is very therapeutic. It's allowed me to have a voice and to, you know, share my story. So as time went on, when I did graduate high school, I went on to teach poetry and creative writing. So I use poetry as a tool to empower the youth, you know, teach them how to use it as a way to increase their comprehension skills, communication skills, and also how to use it as a coping mechanism, because writing is the cheapest form of therapy. So I like to give back in that way. So I perform poetry, I write poetry, I teach poetry. And right now, what I do, I'm the Arts and Education Program Manager for Arkansas. So I help teaching artists do the same thing, which was contracting with different schools and implementing art into academics.
Let's just talk about like poetry, the art form. You know, we talked about it in one sense of it being therapeutic, but poetry is kind of still, it's a budding art form. You don't see many poets in our area, but there is a really, really thriving community here in Little Rock. So kind of just talk about, you know, some of the experiences that you've had in that community and how you see it growing.
Right. So it's definitely almost like an underground situation that's happening in Little Rock. Because when I got introduced again to performing poetry, I went to an open mic that was at Euler, and then after that I started performing, and as I performed, I met a group named Foreign Tongues. Matter of fact, that was here in Little Rock, and then I ended up joining the team. And I remember my 12th grade year in high school, we went to Tampa, Florida to compete in a competition called Southern Fried, which is like the second largest poetry slam in the world. So at 18, I got to travel and do poetry, because I ended up being able to get on like a makeshift team there. So I performed, and I just really loved it. Like, you know, being able to communicate a message through your body and through your words, like that really, you know, always resonated with me. And I've always felt like, you know, God designated me to use my voice. So I love poetry. The community that we have here, it is a growing community, because we do have lots of poets here in Arkansas are fire, you know, like fire. And I also lived in Atlanta too. So being there, you know, I got to see that scene was actually, you know, because their population is way bigger than ours, but their art scene is so much bigger, and literally there was something to do every night. But poetry, again, it has its place in the world, and people participate all the time.
So as an art form, and you being an artist, like tell us some things that are next for you that we can kind of be on the lookout for, so that we can stay locked into what you're doing.
Okay, so you can definitely stay locked in with me by following my website, www.drekkia.com. You can check out my book, 17 Mirrors. It's a collection of poetic reflections, is what I call it. I dropped it last year, so it actually turned 1 this year. Super proud of that. So you can get that on Amazon, or you can order directly from my website. I do have an initiative coming up called Quotivate, which we recently just got funding for. I'm super excited about, but it's basically an initiative where we're using the literary and visual arts to empower people, because I don't know if you know, but I've learned that like what we consume with our ears and our eyes is so important, because it really determines how we think, feel, and behave. So
Absolutely.
With this initiative, Quotivate, literally, we'll have murals throughout the city with motivational phrases and motivational images, and we'll have decals on different business windows. Like, you know, it's nothing to run across a quote that could change your day. And I tell people this all the time. When I was in 10th grade, there was this poster on the wall, and I'll never forget it. It said, "Excuses stop at the door." Phrase literally stuck with me all my life. So I've never allowed myself just to make excuses, because excuses don't help nobody, you know? I'm really on the tangent of no excuses, only execution. So because I understood how powerful that one image was to me and how it carried me throughout my life, I want to be able to recreate that experience for other people. So how beautiful would it be to just be strolling downtown and you see a little sign that say, "Be not led by fear," and it calls you to go out there and save the world. So that's just my biggest thing. I want to be able to use my words to help other people.
Super dope. So y'all been tuned in with your boy, Sir Velvet the Bear. Drekkia Writes over here. She's been, I mean, literally killing the game, not just with poetry, but community involvement and, you know, getting people engaged with using their voices to make change. So as we wrap this thing up, you know, there are some young people at home who really want to invoke change and maybe they don't know how, but they're really good at using their words and they feel led to this artistic art form. Speak to them and just you know, give them some words of encouragement that may be able to spur them on their way to becoming the next poets and influencers.
Well, I know because my background is in working with youth, they do have a lot of great things to say. So one of my biggest encouraging messages for them is to not be scared, because as we all know, getting in front of people and speaking is terrifying. So you have a lot of cool, dope people out here who you'll never see perform because they literally let fear keep them from tapping into their potential. So my biggest piece of advice is to not be scared. Like, the only way you can grow is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So in situations where you feel filled with fear, step in it and actually do it so that you can become comfortable with it, because over time that fear will dissipate. And you have to understand, you know, if you've been given a gift to write something, you know, that's really a gift, because not everybody is able to articulate, you know, certain things. So if you've been given a gift to do that, then your story and your words are not for you to keep to yourself. So you owe it not only to yourself too, but to the world, to share what it is that you have written, because you never know whose life you could change just with your words.
All right, so before we wrap this thing up, we definitely want the people to stay locked into you and what you're doing. So go ahead and shout yourself out and give us your social media handle so we can keep in touch with you.
Okay, you can follow my website, www.drekkia.com. My name on all social media platforms is Drekkia Writes, so that's DREKKIAWRITES, Drekkia Writes on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. But yeah, make sure you tap in with me, buy a book. It's called 17 Mirrors, and it's a collection of poetic reflections. So, you know, tap in with me.
All right, well, this has been our time. Thank you for tuning in to Go Live Creative Soul Sessions. It's your friendly neighborhood bear, Sir Velvet the Bear, and your girl, Drekkia Writes. We up out of here. Talk to y'all later.
Your dream, and you gotta learn to live